So today I want to talk a little bit about awakening. We have these very romanticized ideas of enlightenment and what that means to be awake. And that when it happens, then all of our problems will be solved and everything will be perfect. And it is. That happens. But yet, we still have a body, we still have rent to pay or mortgage to pay or job to work and people to interact with. And we still find ourselves in this very strange world. It's just different. Everything changes. Yet, it's always been this way from this perspective. So it's almost like being the only non-drunk one at the party. But from the perspective of everyone else, you're the drunk one. Because everybody's running around screaming about how painful life is, how much they suffer, how horrible things are. But yet there's just such beauty and ecstasy and joy of being. Just this effulgent light that comes off of every single being that you encounter. Yet they don't see. So again, you appear like the crazy person because you're like, oh my God, you are so bright and beautiful. You're like, no. I got all these problems. I got all this stuff. It's hard to talk about because anything that I say will be misconstrued, misunderstood. But yeah, we try anyways because people want to know. They want to have a goal. You know, we're a very goal-oriented species as humans. Like we want to get somewhere. We want to finish the work and then have something shiny to show for it. But awakening, this process of self-discovery, there's no end. See, it's like we wake up finally and we realize that, oh wow, that all that suffering was just a dream. But all these people are still asleep all around me. And it's terrifying and exciting and blissful. But I still remember these stages where you're going through trying to get somewhere, you know, before I realized there was nowhere to get to. And, you know, over the past few decades of teaching, I've witnessed different students kind of growing and coming into their own and getting very, very close. I have a few right now that are just on the very, very edge, you know. One's like just knocking politely, saying, please, mirror break. And others are like, I'm gonna do it. And then they run right up to it and stop right before the mirror shatters. Because it's terrifying. That's a terrifying aspect, is to completely let go of all control. of realizing that absolutely nothing is under your control. But yet there's responsibility, because as I said, we have these bodies to take care of. So there's this myth that goes on in many spiritual circles of, oh, I'm just going to surrender to eternity and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to take care of anything. And then these people wind up just kind of floating through life, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And very often there's not a whole lot of bliss in that. There's this constant struggle of, no, I have to surrender to be a good spiritual person. Completely missing the point that you already are a good spiritual person. You have essential goodness. You are pure and perfect already. Oh, in my book, Unreasonable Joy, I have this chapter I talk about what it's like to be a teacher. And it's like being surrounded by people who are convinced, absolutely convinced that they can't breathe. So they're like just holding their breath, going, oh, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I'm gonna die. And then they pass out, and then they breathe. And there's that moment, that glimmer of like, oh yes, the breathing happening. I didn't have to do anything. And then the memories kick in, the karma kicks in, the panic of, oh my God, I can't breathe. And it starts all over again. And if you know what's going on, it's ridiculous and it's hilarious. But if you're the person who thinks they're a person who can't breathe, it's heartbreaking. It's intense suffering to think that you can't breathe. It's panic and pain and agony. But once you reach that point of not being able to control, the breathing just happens. So we walk this spiritual path, we explore, and we play all these different games in order to get you to that point where you recognize, not intellectually, but viscerally recognize that, oh, I have no control. But yet I have responsibility. I still need to get up in the morning and stretch the body and have water and eat and move around and interact without getting lost. But the stories of being human, of being the separate entity, are very compelling. And there's a specialness to it that we really enjoy. Even when we're suffering horribly, there's this odd kind of pleasure-pain thing that happens. And so we get sucked back in, and then we forget all about our path. We forget that we're already pure and perfect. And so we dance around and around and around until you meet somebody like me who reminds you that, oh wait, you can wake up too. And life becomes this magnificent adventure all the time, even in the most mundane things, you know. driving the same route that you drive every day is brand new, every single moment. And I tell you this because you don't have to cross some line in order to experience that. Because in a very real way, you already are awake. You're already here. But then you forget, and then you start to control and manipulate and manage and try to protect yourself. And it's interesting because it's this contrast of surrender and responsibility. So it's almost like we try to protect the wrong thing because there's still the responsibility of the body, where you want to protect and care for the body. And in doing so, when we do that, we naturally extend that outward and we become very compassionate and caring of other people's bodies. But this part of our mind that is so vast, that just stretches into infinity, that to look at is so overwhelming because we recognize how tiny these little bodies and these little lives are. And what we wind up doing is trying to protect ourselves from that, which is ridiculous. And yet we know that's ridiculous, so we do these practices trying to connect with that. So, like I said, it's all very entertaining. If you're open. So a very simple and popular practice is just becoming aware of this breathing that's happening. And we can play different games of controlling the breath. You know, when we get, our body is all full of anxiety and concern, we can concentrate on taking deep breath in and exhaling and really feeling the rush of air moving in and out and connecting with the body. And then if we can keep paying attention to that, then we start to notice the different physiological processes that happen. And there's this interesting place that we pass through of being a witness to what is happening with the physical structure. But people get stuck even in that, and just being a witness. There's more. Keep letting go. Keep going past that. You know, I still watch with fascination my own body. It's like this past week I pushed myself physically well beyond my current limits, and just watching what was happening was fascinating, because there's first the physical exhaustion that happens, and then there's the emotional concern that happens, where you get all short-tempered. And it's like, why am I angry all that at my cereal box? And then it's like, because I'm watching, because I'm aware. It's like, oh, it's because I pushed myself way beyond and my hands hurt, and so trying to open the box hurts physically, and then, but I'm ignoring it because I'm being all stoical. So then the emotions, the body does everything it can to get your attention so you'll be responsible. So there's the emotional part that comes up, so you get angry over weird things. And then if you're still stubborn and ignoring it, then you start to get bothered energetically by things. The more subtle messages come in. So it's this fascinating process of being guided in a very real way of what it is that we actually need. So yesterday I finally chilled out and rested and my whole physical system calmed down enough. But how much do we do that without paying attention? How often do we get caught up in these cycles of misery and suffering without paying attention to what's actually happening, what it is that you're actually responsible for? Because where our realm of responsibility is very small. But we like to think ourselves very important. So we think that we're responsible for the entire world. And in a way we are. We're responsible for our little piece of this entire world. And one way to connect with that area of responsibility is through breathing and recognizing that we're breathing, recognizing that the trees are breathing, that others are breathing, plants, and even inanimate objects are breathing. The whole earth is breathing. Everything breathes. Everything is going through a cycle of air energy moving in, air energy moving out, coming into existence, and then going into non-existence. It's just happening all the time. When we really start to pay attention to this, we start to see the transitory nature of everything, including our miserable states, including our pleasurable states. We see that it arises and passes away. And the more that we can see this, the deeper we can go into that seeing, something magical happens, where we connect with eternity. We have this notion of eternity being static. Like, I have this soul that's always going to be me, and I'm always going to have this personality, and I'm always going to be this way. That's not true. Your personality changes. You're not the same person in any shape or form that you were 10, 20, 30 years ago. If you pull up a picture of when you were 5, that's not you. And pull up a picture of you when you were 12. It's like, that's not you either. You might very clearly remember having experiences as that 12-year-old, but even those memories are not of that 12-year-old. It's the memories that you're watching this movie of a 12-year-old through the current filters of your mind that you have now. So what you cling to, thinking that it will last forever, you can put it in a little safety box and hold on tight to it. It's breathing and changing. It's coming into existence and non-existence over and over. And every time it does that, it comes back as something different. You come back as something different every moment. So when you can grasp that concept, you'll see that there's no sense in clinging, because there's nothing to cling to. You can try and try and try, but it's like trying to grab the ocean with your hands. You know, you might get your hands a little wet, but you're not going to pick up the whole ocean. It just runs through your fingers. And every time you reach in, it's different molecules of water. It's different. But the more you can connect with that, you start to let go of your fixations. When you feel pain arise, you recognize that, oh, this pain isn't going to be here forever. It's a passing sensation. It's here now, and then it's going to go away. It arises and it falls. It changes. Everything does. And that everything changes becomes the constant, becomes eternity. And here we are, blessed to experience it all as it's unfolding in all of its glorious beauty. So we can fight against it. We can torture ourselves in trying to hold something static, trying to hold ourselves still, trying to hold others still. Or we can just breathe, because we're going to breathe anyways until we're not breathing anymore, and then we'll breathe as something else. So we can relax and pay attention. And once we stop clinging, once we stop trying to hold onto an idea of ourselves or the world, then we start to actually be able to spontaneously see what it is that needs to be done moment to moment as far as our personal responsibility goes. So practice that this week. Really pay attention to the transitory nature of life. Pay attention to what's breathing. See if you can notice how your chair breathes. See if you can notice the earth breathing. And let yourself be present with it instead of trying to control it. And instead of abdicating responsibility. There's a balance there where we're present, relaxed, and alert. So there's a interactive responsiveness in life. And that's the play. That's the fun. There's not much fun just if you were to go find a tree and you just sit there forever and you just become a rock. And that's good for a while. Sometimes it's fun to do that for a change of pace. But eventually you get up and you interact with the world. And you allow what others need to be pulled out of you. You're able to tap into a lot of generosity that way. Generosity, compassion, altruistic joy, and equanimity. The 4 unlimited states are here waiting. So let's meditate some more. I want to do a longer meditation today. So let's focus on the chakras. We'll do some zazen music. And we'll do one song on the navel center, and then one song on the heart, and then one song on the third eye. And then at the end, if there's any questions, I will try to answer them. But for now, don't think too much about what I've said. Just let it kind of sink in, see what happens. And again, relaxed alertness. So you're going to rest your attention on the navel center for the first song. And then we'll move the attention up to the heart. And again, just let your attention rest. Any thoughts or feelings or noises arise, you just let them show up and disappear. No fighting needed. And then finally, you move your attention up to the third eye. And again, just relaxed alertness.